Hashtag, you should be serving drinks, she said at the baby shower, so I bought the event hall before dessert. The champagne glass slipped from my hand and shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom at the Riverside Event Center. The sound cut through the elegant chatter of perfectly dressed women celebrating my cousin Madison's third baby shower, and suddenly every pair of eyes in the room was staring at me. My name is Emma Rodriguez, and at 28, I had just experienced the most humiliating moment of my life at what was supposed to be a joyful family celebration. Oh my goodness, Emma. Madison's voice carried across the room with that particular tone she'd perfected since childhood, the one that sounded concerned but was really announcing to everyone that I'd messed up again. Don't worry about the glass, honey. I'm sure the staff will clean it up. I knelt down to pick up the pieces, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. This was exactly the kind of thing that happened to me at family events. While my cousins graduated from prestigious universities and married successful men, I was the one spilling drinks and stumbling over my words. The shower was everything Madison did, absolutely perfect. White and gold decorations cascaded from the ceiling, designer gift bags sat at each place setting, and a three-tiered cake from the most expensive bakery in downtown Phoenix dominated the dessert table. About 50 women filled the elegant space, all dressed in their finest clothes, all part of Madison's carefully curated social circle. I stood out like a sore thumb in my Target dress and borrowed shoes, but Madison had insisted I come. It's family, she'd said when she called to invite me. Besides, you need to get out more, Emma. Meet some successful people. As I gathered the glass shards, I caught fragments of conversations around me. These women talked about vacation homes in Aspen, their children's private schools, charity galas they were planning. Their lives seemed to exist in a completely different universe from mine. I worked as a bookkeeper for a small landscaping company in Tempe, living in a studio apartment and driving a 10-year-old Honda Civic with a temperamental air conditioner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and I was good with numbers. I'd always been good with numbers. Emma, dear, come sit with us, called Aunt Patricia, Madison's mother and my father's sister. She gestured to an empty chair at their table near the front of the room. As I approached, I could see her taking in my outfit with barely concealed disappointment. The conversation at the table flowed around topics I couldn't contribute to: nanny services, country club memberships, investment portfolios. I smiled and nodded, feeling increasingly invisible despite being surrounded by people. Then Madison opened my gift. I'd saved for 3 months to buy the beautiful handcrafted baby blanket from a local artisan. It was soft alpaca wool in cream and mint green, with intricate patterns that had taken the maker weeks to complete. I'd thought it was perfect, unique, meaningful, made with care. Madison held it up briefly, her smile never wavering. How rustic, she said, setting it aside quickly to reach for the next gift. Thank you, Emma. The woman next to her, someone named Brittany with perfectly straightened blonde hair, picked up the blanket and examined it more closely. Did you make this yourself, Emma? She asked with what seemed like genuine curiosity. No, I bought it from an artist in Sedona, I explained, happy to finally have something to contribute to the conversation. She raises her own alpacas and spins the wool herself. Each blanket takes about. Oh, how quaint, Brittany interrupted with a laugh. Like something you'd find at a farmer's market. The other women at the table tittered politely. I felt my face flush again, but before I could respond, Madison had moved on to the next gift, an elaborate silver rattle from Tiffany & Company that prompted genuine squeals of delight from the group. As the gift opening continued, I found myself studying the room more carefully. The grand ballroom really was beautiful, with its crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Salt River, and gleaming hardwood floors. But I also noticed things others seemed to miss: water stains on some of the ceiling tiles, worn spots in the carpet along the main walkways, outdated fixtures in the corners. My bookkeeper's mind automatically started calculating. Rental fee for this space was probably around $3,000 for the day. Catering for 50 people at this level would run another $4,000 to $5,000. Flowers, decorations, photography, Madison had easily spent $12,000 to $15,000 on this baby shower. The thought made me slightly sick. I made $38,000 a year. This single party cost almost half my annual salary. Emma, would you mind helping in the kitchen? The voice belonged to Claire, Madison's maid of honor and best friend since college. She appeared beside my chair with her perfect smile and designer handbag. The catering staff is overwhelmed, and you seem comfortable with that kind of work. I stared at her, not quite comprehending what she'd just said. Around our table, conversations had stopped. The women were watching with the fascination of people witnessing a social car crash. "I'm sorry," I managed to say. Claire's smile never wavered. "Well, you work in service, don't you? I just thought you might be more comfortable helping out rather than sitting here with the guests. No judgment, of course. We all have different roles in life." The room had gone completely quiet now. Even Madison had stopped opening gifts to watch this unfold. "I'm not in service," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "I'm a bookkeeper." "Oh, right," Claire said with a little laugh. "But still, wouldn't you feel more useful doing something productive? There's a whole kitchen full of staff who probably need direction." That's when Madison chimed in, her voice carrying across the silent room. "Claire has a point, Emma. You should be serving drinks, not sitting here pretending to be one of the ladies who lunch. It would be more appropriate for someone in your position." The words hit me like a physical blow. Around the room, I could see reactions ranging from shock to amusement to second-hand embarrassment. A few women had their phones out, probably texting about the drama unfolding before their eyes. I stood up slowly, my legs feeling unsteady. "Excuse me for a moment," I said, and walked toward the bathroom on shaking knees. In the marble-appointed restroom, I stared at myself in the mirror. My dark hair was starting to curl in the Arizona humidity, my lipstick had worn off, and my Target dress looked even cheaper under the harsh vanity lights. Everything about me screamed, "Doesn't belong here." But as I stood there, something strange happened. Instead of crying, which is what I would have done 6 months ago, I found myself getting angry. Really, deeply angry. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app I'd been avoiding looking at for weeks. The balance that appeared on the screen made my breath catch. 6 months earlier, my grandmother had passed away and left me an inheritance that had been sitting in my account like a secret I couldn't quite believe. Abuela Rosa had been a quiet woman who lived in a tiny house in South Phoenix, but apparently, she'd been quietly investing her teacher's pension and Social Security for 40 years. The inheritance was $127,000, more money than I'd ever imagined having. I'd been too overwhelmed to know what to do with it. My financial advisor had recommended conservative investments, maybe using it as a down payment on a small condo. But standing in that bathroom, humiliated and angry, a completely different idea began forming in my mind. I Googled Riverside Event Center ownership and started reading. It took me 10 minutes to piece together the basic facts. The venue was family-owned, had been struggling since the pandemic, and was quietly being marketed for sale. The asking price was $95,000, less than my inheritance. My hands were shaking as I called the number listed on the commercial real estate website. "Rodriguez Real Estate, this is Miguel speaking. Hi, I'm calling about the Riverside Event Center listing. Is it still available?" "Yes, it is. Are you looking to schedule a viewing?" I glanced at my watch. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Saturday. "Is there any way I could see it today? Like, right now?" There was a pause. "That's unusual, but I'm actually in the area. Give me 20 minutes and I can meet you there." "Perfect. I'm already here." I hung up and stared at myself in the mirror again. Was I really about to do this? Was I about to buy an entire event center out of spite and impulse? Actually, yes. Yes, I was. When I walked back into the ballroom, the baby shower was in full swing again. Madison was opening the last of her gifts while women chatted and sipped champagne. Claire was holding court near the dessert table, probably regaling everyone with the story of how she'd put the help in her place. I walked straight up to the dessert table where Claire was standing with 3 other women, all of them looking like they'd stepped out of a Phoenix Society magazine. "Claire," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the group. "I wanted to thank you." She turned with that same practiced smile. "Oh, Emma. Did you find the kitchen staff? I'm sure they appreciated the extra help." "Actually, I didn't go to the kitchen," I said. I went to buy this building. The champagne flute in Claire's hand stopped halfway to her lips. I'm sorry, what? I said I bought this building. The Riverside Event Center. It's mine now. The women around us had gone completely silent again, but this time it felt different. This time I was the one in control. That's not possible, Claire stuttered. You can't just buy a building in 20 minutes. I pulled out my phone and showed her the signed purchase agreement I'd just completed electronically. Miguel had been incredibly efficient, and with my pre-approved financing and Abuela Rosa's inheritance as collateral, the whole transaction had taken less than 15 minutes. You're right that it was quick, I said. But when you have good credit and cash for the down payment, these things move fast. Madison had appeared beside us now, along with Aunt Patricia and several other family members. Word was spreading through the room like wildfire. Emma, what are you talking about? Madison demanded. You can't afford to buy a building. You live in a studio apartment. That's true, I agreed. But I also just inherited more money than you spent on this baby shower. And unlike some people, I know how to make smart investments. I could see Madison doing the math in her head, trying to figure out if this could possibly be real. Around us, women were pulling out their phones, probably Googling to see if commercial real estate transactions could really happen this quickly. Claire had recovered enough to attempt damage control. Well, even if that's true, it doesn't change the fact that... That what? I interrupted. That I should be serving drinks? That I'm not good enough to sit with the ladies who lunch? I turned to address the room, my voice carrying to every corner of the space. Here's the thing about service work, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. My grandmother worked as a teacher and a house cleaner to support her family. My mother worked double shifts at a restaurant to put me through college. Hard work is honorable work. The room was absolutely silent now, every person focused on what I was saying. But the difference is, they were never ashamed of their work. They never let anyone make them feel less than human because of their job title. They understood something that apparently some people in this room don't. Your worth as a person has nothing to do with how much money you have or what kind of car you drive. I walked over to the gift table and picked up the blanket I'd brought for Madison. This blanket was made by a woman named Maria who lives in Sedona. She's a single mother who turned her love of fiber arts into a business that supports her family. She's not embarrassed by working with her hands. She's proud of creating something beautiful that will comfort a baby. I looked directly at Madison. I hope your daughter grows up understanding the difference between true class and expensive accessories. With that, I walked toward the exit, my head held high for the first time all day. Emma, wait. Madison called after me. You can't just leave. This is my baby shower. I turned back. You're absolutely right. This is your baby shower, and you should enjoy every minute of it. But from now on, when you want to rent this space, you'll be dealing with me. The drive home to my studio apartment felt surreal. Had I really just bought an event center? Had I really confronted my entire family in front of 50 witnesses? My phone was buzzing non-stop with calls and texts, but I ignored them all. That evening, Miguel called to walk me through the next steps. I have to say, he told me, in 20 years of real estate, I've never seen someone make a decision that quickly. Usually, commercial buyers want surveys, inspections, market analyses. Was it a stupid decision? I asked, suddenly terrified that my impulse purchase would bankrupt me. Actually, no, he said, sounding surprised. The property is structurally sound, and the location is prime. With Phoenix's growth, commercial real estate in this area is only going to appreciate. If you can make the business profitable, this could be a very smart investment. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into learning everything I could about running an event venue. I spent my evenings and weekends at the center, going through the previous owner's books, meeting with vendors, understanding the business from top to bottom. What I discovered was that the venue had been struggling not because there wasn't demand, but because it was being managed inefficiently. The previous owners had relied on expensive outside contractors for everything and hadn't invested in marketing or customer service improvements. My bookkeeping background turned out to be perfect training for this. I could see exactly where money was being wasted and where small changes could make big differences in profitability. I also discovered something else: I loved this work. I loved the challenge of coordinating complex events, the satisfaction of helping families celebrate important moments, the creativity involved in transforming the space for different occasions. Within a month, I had my first booking, a quinceañera for a family from my old neighborhood. The celebration was beautiful, full of joy and tradition, and seeing the pride in the parents' eyes as they watched their daughter dance reminded me why celebrations matter. Word spread quickly through the Latino community in Phoenix. I offered competitive pricing, bilingual service, and a genuine understanding of cultural traditions that many other venues couldn't provide. Within 3 months, I was booked solid on weekends. But the real test came 6 weeks after Madison's baby shower, when Aunt Patricia called. "Emma, I want to apologize for what happened at the shower," she began. "Madison has been upset about how things ended, and we were wondering if you might consider hosting Madison's actual baby celebration when little Sophia is born." I was quiet for a long moment. "Why would you want to have it here?" "Because," Patricia said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it, "we realized we were wrong. About you, about your worth, about what success looks like. And because this place is beautiful, and you've made it even more beautiful." The christening party I planned for Madison's daughter was completely different from the baby shower. Instead of trying to impress people with expensive vendors and imported decorations, I focused on creating an atmosphere of genuine celebration. Local musicians provided entertainment, a family-owned Mexican restaurant catered authentic food, and the decorations were elegant but warm. Madison was different too. Whether it was the experience of becoming a mother or the shock of seeing me succeed in such a dramatic way, something had shifted in how she saw me. "Emma," she said as I was arranging flowers on the dessert table, "I owe you an apology. What I said at the baby shower was cruel and wrong." I looked up from the centerpiece I was creating. "Thank you for saying that. I think I was jealous," she admitted. "You've always been so authentic, so comfortable with who you are. I've spent my whole life trying to impress people, trying to fit into some idea of what success should look like. But you just went out and created your own version of success." "Madison," I said gently, "success isn't a competition. There's room for all of us to build good lives in our own ways." The party was a huge success. Families from all backgrounds came together to celebrate little Sophia, and the atmosphere was warm and inclusive in a way that Madison's shower had never been. Even Claire, who had driven down from Scottsdale, seemed to genuinely enjoy herself. As I watched the celebration, I thought about Abuela Rosa and what she would have made of all this. She had always told me that money was just a tool, what mattered was how you used it to build something meaningful. The Riverside Event Center was profitable within 6 months. I hired 3 part-time employees, all local women who brought their own skills and perspectives to the business. Maria, the woman who made my blanket, became our preferred textile artist, creating custom linens and decorations for special events. I also started a scholarship program, offering free or discounted venue rentals for families who couldn't otherwise afford to celebrate their important moments. Quinceañeras, wedding receptions, graduation parties, celebrations that create memories and bring communities together. The business grew beyond anything I had imagined. Within a year, I was featured in Phoenix Magazine as one of the city's rising entrepreneurs. I was invited to speak at business conferences about turning personal challenges into professional opportunities. But the success that meant the most to me was much smaller and more personal. It came on a Tuesday afternoon when I was training a new employee, a young woman named Sophia who had recently immigrated from El Salvador. "Ms. Rodriguez," she said after I'd shown her how to set up the sound system, "I want to thank you for this job. But also, for showing me that we can build something beautiful here. That we don't have to accept other people's ideas of what we're worth." That evening, as I locked up the event center and headed home to the small house I'd been able to buy in a neighborhood I loved, I thought about how drastically my life had changed in just 1 year. I thought about Claire's words at the baby shower, "You should be serving drinks, not sitting here pretending to be one of the ladies who lunch." She had been right about one thing: I wasn't meant to be a lady who lunches. I was meant to be something much better, a woman who builds, who creates, who uses her resources to lift up her community. The inheritance from Abuela Rosa had given me the financial means to buy the event center, but the real gift had been her example of quiet dignity and hard work. She had shown me that true wealth isn't about impressing others, it's about creating something meaningful that outlasts your own lifetime. Today, the Riverside Event Center hosts celebrations for families from every economic level and cultural background in Phoenix. We've become known for our inclusive approach, our attention to cultural traditions, and our commitment to making every celebration special regardless of budget. I still drive my 10-year-old Honda Civic, though the air conditioner is fixed now. I still live modestly, though in a house instead of a studio apartment. The difference is that I'm no longer apologizing for who I am or trying to fit into someone else's definition of success. Sometimes former clients tell me their stories, about family members who looked down on them, about people who made them feel small, about moments when they questioned their own worth. I always tell them the same thing Abuela Rosa used to tell me, Mija, your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. If you've made it this far in my story, I want you to know that you have more power than you realize. Maybe you don't have an inheritance sitting in your bank account, but you have skills, intelligence, and the ability to create something meaningful with whatever resources you do have. Have you ever had someone try to make you feel small because of your job, your background, or your circumstances? Have you ever discovered strength you didn't know you had when someone pushed you too far? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story inspired you to think differently about your own possibilities, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We're here to share stories of people who refuse to accept other people's limitations, who built something beautiful from moments of challenge and change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting angry, it's getting successful. Sometimes the most powerful response to someone who tries to diminish you is to expand so far beyond their expectations that they can't help but see your worth. That day at Madison's baby shower, Claire told me I should be serving drinks instead of pretending to belong with successful women. Today, I serve joy, celebration, and dignity to families throughout Phoenix. And that feels like the perfect kind of success to me.